thank you all for indulging in Dale and I. We'd like to get to know who we're speaking to, really, and it kind of shows the community, the diverse community that the MBA attracts, especially at Lehigh. Everyone has different motivations and purposes in pursuing the MBA, whether you're talking about our Flex MBA part-time or online, or our one-year full-time MBA. Both of those programs give you the opportunity to work with Professor Dale Falcinelli, and I'm going to pass things over to him as he's going to lead us through what is strategy. So thank you all.
Sean, I'm not letting you off that easy.
Man.
I would like you to sort of capture the essence of this audience of our very distinguished group.
Yeah.
In 3 words. What 3 words would describe the kind of group that we have with us this evening? First word is what?
Motivated.
I totally agree with that. Very motivated. I'm picking up a passion for being here and for exploring. You're absolutely right. Second word.
I'm gonna say, I have so many positive words to say about many of you people, because I know a lot of you closer. I'm trying to think. Determined.
You
want to go there?
Excellent second word. Very determined, very focused. That really does communicate, honestly. And by the way, folks, this has not been rehearsed because he's struggling.
Not at all, because I am struggling.
Yes. What's a third word? So determined is the second word. Passionate is the first word. Okay. The third word.
Eager.
Motivated. You're
all right. You're right. Sorry, I'm trying to
repeating. Okay.
Let's see. What else can we say? I mean, I already said diverse to describe the group, but each one of them, intelligent.
That was my word. You're stealing from me. Very smart. So smart, motivated, diverse, passionate. That's the group that's assembled this evening. So it's easy for me to say that I feel privileged to be in your company. And I want to start by saying, how do you really explain what MBA education is all about? You can't. You can put it in a brochure, but it's not going to be understood or appreciated. You have to be inside the environment, inside the walls of MBA education, because at the end, you're going to think differently. You really will think differently. It will change you. There is no specific deliverable. Some of you may know more about finance. Some of you may know more about marketing, accounting, supply chain, entrepreneurship. But at the end of the day, when you graduate X number of years from now, if you're in the one MBA, it'll be a year from now, you will be different. You will feel it, and it will instill a sense of confidence in you. And that's the excitement that people like me have, to be sort of the tour guide, the facilitator to take you on this journey. So having said that, I thought about the invite to say something to you guys, and you really can't. You can't say, I don't want to be the person in front of you to tell you what it's about. So I thought, let's have a little fun tonight. Let's do it on the run. I created 4 little mini MBA cases, and this is probably going to be a massive failure of effort, but you're kind enough to humor me, okay? So let's kind of take this trip down MBA land, and I'm going to put on the screen a situation, some description and a situation, and then we're going to sort of kind of dissect it, and then the question is going to be asked, and then we'll go from one to the next, to the next, to the next, and if it's meaningful, you'll get the flavor of what MBA education is about. You're coming from functional walks. Specifically, you're doing things to enhance the well-being of the company that you serve. At the MBA level, you're seeing things more from a holistic or a global perspective. And that's the excitement. You're sort of out of the prison. You're able to think in a very different way from a distance away from the enterprise, as opposed to being inside the enterprise, which is kind of sometimes a form of imprisonment in a sense. So with your permission, Sean, can I sort of take hold of the screen and we go to the first situation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Matt gave you that privilege to be able to do that.
Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. So please permit me to kind of fool around with screen share. And I'll do it right now. And here we go. Let's go up here to, let's see, Morgan. No, I don't want those. Hold on one second here. Here we go. Oh, let's see here. Somewhere in here, I put this. Morgan Stanley. No, hold it. Oh, God. Let's see here. Somehow I don't see the document. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Here it is. Boom. Thanks for your patience. Here we go. Do you hear the drum roll in the background? What is strategy? Okay. Well, let's talk about strategy in the way that maybe resonates with some of you, maybe all of you. So I'm going to take you into number one. Let's talk number one, background. You know, True Value Company. Some of us do. It began its existence and operated for decades as a retail co-op. Look at the dealer network, 4,000 small, locally owned hardware stores are in this network. Highlights. Recently, True Value inked a deal with Acon Investments, which is a private equity firm. And their aim is to fund and accelerate the transformation of this cooperative, which is a member-based enterprise, to become a branded national hardware wholesaler of products. So from member-based to wholesaler. Since abandoning the co-op model, nearly 500 retailers have joined the True Value ranks. Thanks to the removal of one of the requirements, which is to invest in the co-op. Member-based co-ops means members have to invest in the co-op. Here's the situation. True Value Company has dramatically changed how it generates revenue. Think about that. We have a business in transformation from a retail cooperative to a wholesale distributor. 4,000 locally owned hardware stores, 500 retail buyers. So here's the question. You are CEO of True Value. Explain how the business model has changed and why. This is an MBA question. The business model means, how do companies make their money? That's what a business model is. So you're the CEO of True Value. How has the business model changed? You went from cooperative to wholesale distributor. How has that business model changed? Cooperative, franchisee, to wholesale distributor, customer. It's a very profound shift in thinking and doing. So how has the business model changed? Who would like to sort of weigh in on that? Let's get a conversation going. Any takers?
I'll jump in.
Go right ahead.
So at first glance, they move away from a membership-based business to a wholesaler, right? So they're going away from fixed revenue streams, probably maybe some fees that they would collect as part of their revenue, to a wholesale business where they're buying and selling. They have to get more working capital. They'll have to, establish supply chains and, add a lot of cost to their business model.
That's very interesting. That's very relevant. They went from a family to a transactional based business. Let's stay with that theme right now, okay? The business model has shifted. They've gone from a family, a membership based enterprise. And by the way, when you're membership based, what is the plus about being membership based? And it's a cooperative. That's what a retail cooperative is. It's like Ace Hardware, same thing. It's a retail cooperative. What is so nice about being a retail cooperative? What do you enjoy from your members?
Dale, kind of like you're like a family. You're like loyal to it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Great comment. You're not only getting fees, membership fees, they've got to belong to the club in quotes, but you're getting loyalty.
Right.
It's a rule-driven kind of environment. So if you're a franchisee, a member inside the world of True Value, you're having to observe rules. Rules are important because it allows you to conform to a certain system. And if the system, it works, it can be efficient to deliver benefit. What's the problem with being a member-based organization? If you were in MBA land and you looked at this in the abstract, what's the problem here? Because they moved from being a member-based cooperative to a wholesale distributor, which is a transactional model. We offer it, you buy it for a certain price. Why would they make that move? What do you think the motivation was? And I know some of you may have this answer spot on. What do you think it is?
I think one thing that would drive this decision would be the fact that you're handing off your business and the management of those smaller branches off to a essentially second party. So it's a trickle down of management.
You are spot on. Sean, give her a degree right now. We don't have to have her enroll in the MBA program because it's a one size fits all model. So what happens with a little hardware dealer in Omaha, Nebraska, a relative to a hardware dealer in Metuchen, New Jersey? You know, they have different environment to sell, different customers, different culture, different way of doing. And so suddenly this cooperative was feeling that their 4,000 member-based organization did not have the degrees of freedom that they need and want in order to grow their businesses. So interestingly, your comment is spot on. The motivation to do this was less than financial and more about autonomy and creating excitement in terms of the retail buyer. Now, what's the downside here, guys? There's a price to be paid here, and you saw the two numbers. You saw the two numbers. What was the number of the members that made up True Value before the move?
4,000.
What is it now in terms of retail buyers?
500.
500. 4,500. So my next question in MBA land is ostensibly, we've gone from 4,000 buyers to 500. From a financial perspective, how do we make up that loss of business?
Volume?
We hope so eventually, with more and more and more retail buyers joining the fold. But go a little step further. When you're the family and you're buying and you're a member of the cooperative, how are you buying product? Do you think the margins on the purchase of your product from the point of view of True Value, are they high or low? That's right, they're low.
They're low,
You're a member buying and we're going to give you preferential pricing. In the new model, the new business model, you're not going to get preferential pricing. You may be treated preferentially, but the margins are probably going to be higher because of higher pricing, because you're selling on a wholesale level, a transactional model. Now, I don't know what the result is, but to go from 4,000 to 500, that was a shock to their system, which is why they needed private equity. This is fresh. I thought I'd put this out, but I'm very impressed by the commentary here. We're really talking about a business model. A business model. How does a company make its money? When you're a franchise operation, you have franchisees. There are fees and there are rules. It's a fraternity of sorts. Now we've kind of cut ourselves loose from the family, and we're now selling product on a wholesale level. Well, I'd rather do it that way and give promotional incentives for our customers to buy, have more than 500 at our doorstep eventually, make the product exciting, make it easy for them to buy from us. And in the end, maybe we'll have 2,000, 2,500, 3,000 customers. It's a long-term prospect for success. Good job. So I'm ready to go to the second situation. God, I feel like I'm in a classroom right now. I feel normal. I feel abnormal. Okay, let's go to the next situation here. All righty. And I know you're waiting with bated breath. Here we go. You just left this. Following number one is number two. This is my favorite. Okay. Let's see if we can crack the code with this one. Float made up. This is real because part of my life is an investment banker, but this is faked because I don't want to be sued. All right. So Floatech is a small, I mean, really small, $28 million niche company that manufactures and sells a very boring line of pumps. All right. Patented technology that's well known among craft breweries and distilleries that require gentle and precise pumping action. Who would not like to be beer going through the pipeline with Floatech pumps kind of moving us along the way, all right? So that's what Floatech does. Highlights. Floatech pumps, though very high priced, offer an efficient and very low maintenance solution. Low maintenance. So, hey, we're paying a high price, but in the end, they're operating very efficiently and our maintenance costs are minimal. You can see the trade-off here. It's a positive trade-off. Look at this bullet here. Look at this bullet. The market for industrial pumps is $60 billion globally. It's a huge industry. And quite honestly, and surprisingly, it's growing at roughly 4% annually, anticipated from where we are now in 2021 to 2028, 82 billion in sales. It's not a small industry, which is chopped up into many different markets. Here's the interesting observation. 7 players explain 80% of the market. It's not an oligopoly where you have 1 or 2 or 3 players, or a monopoly with 1 or 3 players, but there are 7 players here. And some of these names you may be familiar with, like Ingersoll Rand, Groundfuss. These are very well-known, highly regarded names. 7 of them explain 80% of the market. Do you hear the drum roll in the background? Let's look at the situation here. This is true. Although profits are lackluster, less than $1 million on sales of 28 million. Anyone want to do the arithmetic? What's the profit margin here? 1 million divided by 28 million. Can anyone calculate that right now? What is that percentage? I haven't.
3.5, 3.6.
Yeah, it's very low. It's negligible. It's a low performer. This company is a low performer, okay? So although profits are lackluster at less than $1 million, Floatech's CEO and founder and the board believe conditions are right to sell the company. I repeat, despite the lackluster profit, conditions are right to sell the company. so Flowtech CEO and board of directors believe. So here's the question. You are now an investment banker. Why are you advising your client, step in my shoes, to sell now rather than later? Why? Why? Let's go to the second part of that question later. Why sell now rather than later? What can be the only reason to justify selling now rather than later, knowing what you know? 1 million in profit against 28 million in sales, a low performer. You know, if we were generating 12%, 15%, high performer. 1 million on 20 million in sales, low performer. So why would you advise the client to sell now? Come on, guys, let's hear from you. This is
I
great.
think
Yeah.
given the expected growth in the market, like some other competitors might be willing to take over another company just to expand their market share.
Check that
And
box.
also, yeah, and even though the profits is low, I think there's going to be a lot of once it's been taken over, there may be a lot of process changes that can maybe bring up the profit margin a little more. So competitors might be interested in buying it out.
Oh, interesting. So you're kind of gravitating towards the second question, which I'm glad you are doing. Your points are well taken. The anticipated growth is very high for this industry. And to your point, there are a limited number of key players out there, and they're looking for opportunities, and there are niche markets that provide greater opportunity for a competitor to spread its wings, to kind of widen its market footprint. So from a macro perspective, from an environmental perspective, it looks like there may be a strong basis to move forward with a sale. The interest level could be very high. So why a competitor? What makes this acquisition so attractive to a competitor? Not as a standalone business.
They have the means to produce the product already.
Oh, good. Keep going. Keep going. I like what you're saying.
So yeah.
So it wouldn't be a cost to them to produce it. It would just be a cost to take over, and then they would make up more than 80% of the market in those 7 players. It might put them at the lead of the market, is what I'm thinking.
Well, there's not enough sales. It's not going to move the needle a whole lot in terms of accreting sales, okay? But your point is well taken, your first point. Can we build on that? So again, why would a competitor be eager to bid on this company? And I think what you said in the beginning is spot on. Let's further develop that point.
They'd be able to own then a premium product that through their revenue that they have, that they could market it more, they could sell it a little more efficiently than the prior owner.
Great comment. So they inherit a customer base, and then they leverage their market channels to grow sales. Okay? There's a word that we use in acquisition, and I say this cynically because the word is used too often. It starts with an S. What is it?
Synergy.
Don't say that word ever again to me, all right? I never want to hear that word again. The synergistic effect, right? We acquire it, we benefit from their customers, their channel, and then we leverage our market channel to grow sales. How else do we benefit? And this was indicated by what was said at the very beginning. What else attracts us to this company as an acquisition? Post-acquisition, what can we do?
There's the technology element. They make high-priced, highly efficient pumps with low
Good
maintenance.
point. We're acquiring the IP. We're going to own it. We're going to own all the designs and the patents. Okay. So it's our IP. It's an intangible asset, but it has value. What else?
You can leverage it into
Even-
other market areas. Sorry.
Pardon me?
Saying you could grow the market to outside the niche product that it's currently being sold as.
That's possible. It's possible to sort of take this technology to adjacent markets, not just customers that are in the space with microbreweries and other distilled products. I agree with you on that point. It makes sense. What else?
I also wonder if, like, after acquiring the first company, maybe that acquirer is trying to also take over some other companies to 7 is like a bit of an awkward number for such a big market share, and maybe to create like a monopoly.
That's an
almost
interesting comment. Yeah, it's the potential for a roll-up. That's what we call, you know, you're going after small companies. It's a roll-up, and they're cost effective to acquire. There's a synergistic effect. That's an excellent point you're raising, and that was one of the reasons as well. But someone said in the beginning, and I couldn't agree more, that, hey, we have our plant operation, we have our fixed assets, we have our people in production. We don't need your production facilities. We can take what you make and make it ourselves in our expanded plant operation. And when we do that, what do we eliminate? What do we reduce or eliminate? We eliminate what?
Overhead costs.
Yeah, we eliminate production costs and other overhead. And that's a huge add back. Notice the word add back. EBITDA, add back. Earnings before depreciation, taxes, and amortization, interest. That is EBITDA. It's the cash flow generated from this business. Hey, if we internalize production, we don't need their production facilities. We can transition out of their plants into our plants. And there's another synergistic effect, which is a wonderful add back. And so here you see an interesting scenario. A low performance business becomes attractive to a potential acquirer in terms of the synergy and the cost efficiency that can be realized from an acquisition. This is called a bolt-on acquisition. That's the name of the game here. Big acquires small as a bolt-on acquisition. Very common form of a very common place in terms of how deals are done between big and small. Good. Let's go. We're right on schedule. We're right on schedule here. Let's go to number 3 here. This is interesting here. Procter & Gamble, P&G, is, among many things, the leading liquid laundry detergent manufacturer in the US. You believe they control 56%. P&G, through its 14 brands of laundry detergent, they explain a $5 billion mass market, 56% of it. You know, over 3, let's round it, $3 billion of 5 billion. It's a huge number. 12 brands, it's now 14 brands. They find their way to the shelves of supermarkets, drug chain. You can go anywhere and buy laundry detergent with a name. And if you look more closely, it's owned by Procter & Gamble. Here's some highlights. You know, I don't think many of you are aware of the fact that their flagship brand, Tide, are you ready for this? Tide, one laundry detergent among a sea of brands out there, explains over $1 billion in sales. There are 85 patents on Tide across time. It is without a doubt the most protected of all laundry detergents on the planet. 1 billion in sales. But notice here, P&G is experiencing some erosion of market share with their flagship brand. I just put that on the side just for you to look at that, because it's going to come back and sort of impact on your thinking as we go below. Another P&G brand, Dreft, is the segment leader for babies. I bet you didn't know that. $150 million of sales relates to Drift, a product whose brand is in a segment of the market called laundry detergent for babies, a segment. So take a look just below. There are immediate competitors, and I've done my research here. Purex, Nuke Ecos, 7th generation, OxyClean. They're powerful competitors, manufactured and sold by big companies, not as big as P&G. But take a look at the next bullet here. These you find on websites and through e-commerce platforms like Amazon. They're not on the supermarket shelves or in the drug chains, but customers know their names and they're able to buy them online. So this is the external sort of situation for Procter & Gamble as it relates to Drift. Take a look at this. Drift ain't Drift anymore. Drift is Drift. What horrible names. Aren't they horrible? Drift Stage 1. This is Procter & Gamble. I mean, these people make big money to come up with these names. Drift Stage 1 for the newborn. For the newborn, free of those harmful enzymes that maybe give these little infants a rash. And Drift Stage 2, if you've done your research, it's more for the toddlers that are, it's more about stain removal, okay? So Drift Stage 1, newborn, Drift Stage 2, active. That's the situation now. There's no longer just Drift. You are the chief marketing officer. What is your rationale? What do you think the rationale is for creating two brands or sub-brands instead of one? Drift. What's the rationale here, guys? What's the justification for this?
It'll entice consumers to buy two products from you.
Good. You're saying implicitly there's two segments here. In our crystal ball, we see two segments for our brand. We see one segment for the infant and the other segment for the toddler. Two very different needs, two very different buyers that are motivated to purchase product. That's your first point, which is a good one. For a chemical engineer, you're spot on, okay? What else? Why? Why? Be honest with me now. Why are they doing this? We'll talk about the downside later. Why are they doing this? We know that maybe through their research, they see two different sub-markets here, one for the infant and one for the toddler. So Drift Stage 1, Drift Stage 2, okay? Other rationale.
Maybe it's the product differentiation, just going back or going forward with what you've said so far. It's being able to address the needs of different markets by picking up Drift into the two.
Great reinforcement. Through their crystal ball, they see two segments here. They see a product line extension, you know, Stage 1, Stage 2. They see through their crystal ball, through their market research, through their focus group discussions and other primary market research, they see two types of moms out there. A mom that wants to buy Stage 1 and Stage 2. And we've done it. We've created two sub-brands right now instead of one. What's the motivation here? So their market research says this, but what else is motivating them to do this?
Are they maybe trying to control the market narrative as the market leader?
Keep going.
So they're
Oh,
essentially dictating how the customers should view, I guess, baby products.
you're
And
being very polite. You're being too polite. What am I doing here? Okay, I'm taking you up top here. What do they see happening around them?
influx of too many competitors.
Yes, the competitive landscape is becoming more populated and more confusing, isn't it?
Yes.
Right alongside them, they have some immediate competitors, and these names are very familiar to households. Purex, yeah, Ecos. These are very familiar names. They're not as prominent as Dreft, but they're very, very familiar names. Now look just below there. You got these little tiny brands. It's almost like the craft beers, okay? Carving out, taking sales away from the market leader. So to your point, there's a fear factor here, isn't there? There's a fear factor. We have to do something rather than do nothing. And the something is, our research seems to indicate, maybe they're lying to themselves, that there are two segments. And we can justify through our research, but you know something, at the end of the day, the brand manager is probably saying, we need to circle the wagons here. What's another justification?
They marketed it separately and differently versus their larger brands like Tide. So
That's
they
a great
focused
comment.
almost too much.
We can build a giant promotional campaign and kind of breathe new life into the Dreft product life cycle. That's an excellent comment. And then let's go way up top here. What's happening with the first bullet? Has nothing to do with Dreft, but it has everything to do with Dreft.
They're all in-store products, not online marketing.
The first bullet,
Steadily eroding the market.
their flagship brand is under attack.
Yeah.
You know, if you look up top here, yeah, they are the market leader. They're the category leader, 56%. But you know something? That's today's news, not tomorrow's news. So you see the justification for doing a product line extension. Okay, guys, do you hear the drum roll in the background? What's the downside?
People could
Downside.
confused as to why they now have to buy two things instead of one.
Keep
And some
going.
don't like the idea. Like if they can buy one thing and it works for a longer period of time, they're happier. It's simpler.
Interesting. You're going down the path. Let me ask you, chemical engineer, what do you call me if I'm eating my arm? Okay. If I decide I'm hungry, I'm gonna eat my arm. What might you call that? If I'm
Strange.
eating myself, what?
Strange.
What is strange is right. There's a term for this.
Cannibalization.
Who said that?
Anuj.
Yeah.
Yes, Anuj.
Was Anuj.
You're cannibalizing. Jesus, are there really two segments there? Are we taking sales, to your point, chemical engineer, are we taking sales away from ourselves? In other words, this isn't 1 + 1 is 3, which we hope it is. If we guessed right, and these are two different segments, we're going to add more sales. It's 1 + 1 is 3, or is it 1 + 1 is 1.5? That's the issue with product line extensions. Are we cannibalizing? What's another problem with product line extensions? If you guess this, I have a second, Sean, we have a second person to get the MBA free of charge, okay? What's
It
the
introduces
second
more
downside?
complexity for them to manage.
Getting close.
The product won't work. Like,
Oh, well, let's assume for the sake of discussion that it will work, okay?
Doesn't it have to do with their production line, so to say? So now they've
Oh,
got.
that's an interesting comment.
Yeah.
They're going to have to figure a way to efficiently schedule production against promotions that they're going to run. And there's a lot of coordination that's needed because typically promotional campaigns are different from one brand to the next. So your comment is well taken, because remember, this is a process facility that produces detergent. So scheduling production, doing it efficiently is a huge issue. Now you're creating complication inside the world of production. Good point. Check that box. What's another box to be checked?
Could they also be encouraging their competitors to maybe do something similar and come up with more products?
That's a great comment that may encourage your competition to think long and hard about, especially your major competition, to also counter with sub-brands. That's a distinct possibility. What else?
You're potentially missing an opportunity in that niche product area where you're missing out on creating potentially a different subset of your product to market online and get to a different distribution method than your
I
headliner.
haven't thought about that. That's Brendan, it's very interesting, because maybe it's a channel play that's different. Maybe we don't do two separate brands. Maybe it's a channel play. Maybe we put more emphasis on online marketing methods and work with internet marketing and social media. That's an excellent comment. That's an excellent comment. Maybe it's more a channel play rather than a product line extension. Great comment. What's another downside here?
Wouldn't it require 2 times as the amount of marketing, like marketing costs, marketing exposure?
You know, I gave you a free MBA before. You want a second free MBA, Brian? You know, that's interesting. You've got another brand manager. You've got another assistant brand manager. You've got a staff below the brand manager and assistant brand manager. And you have another advertising agency to support the brand manager and the assistant brand manager. When you do product line extensions and you're a big company like P&G, the marketing overhead is horrific. It's horrific. And some of the times you don't see that. All of a sudden your overhead increases dramatically. So it may not be profitable. It may get you more sales, but it may not be profitable at the end of the day. And remember, the difference between sales and marketing is very simple. The goal of sales is simple. I want it off my shelf and I want it on your shelf. Very simple goal, isn't it? I want it off my shelf, out of my inventory, and I want it part of your inventory. That's selling. Marketing is very different. What I sell, can I make an acceptable profit from it? That's what differentiates marketing from sales. They are two very different creatures. Good. We're ready to the bonus, the lightning round. Let me take you back in time. I'm embarrassed to say that I began my career at Lehigh in 1966. You know how ancient that is? I was a freshman at Lehigh in 1966, and I graduated in 1970, went on to graduate school, entered the doctoral program, having come out of the Army. And after I reached the level of writing my dissertation, I got terribly bored. We were not on the internet. We had the library you'd have to go to, and probably being severely ADD, I realized in the middle of my dissertation, this was not for me, and I went to industry. And the rest is history, okay? So I had this finance professor at Lehigh. He became my mentor, especially in the graduate school. I'm dedicating this question, this situation, this description to Professor Eli Schwartz, who passed away many years ago. Background: a noted Lehigh finance professor, not me, who is remembered by his former student, me, for his brilliance and wit, presented this riddle to his MBAs. Okay, here is the setup. A small business owner, her name is Janet, runs a chocolate factory that sells to commercial customers who are scattered. Oh my, I'm getting the shakes right now, thinking Eli is in front of me. Sells to commercial customers, retailers who are scattered throughout the mid-Atlantic states. Janet proceeded to visit her friendly banker, his name is Jim, saying sales are robust and far exceeding expectations. In the past, this same bank helped finance equipment purchases that served to modernize the operation, reduce labor costs, and boost productivity. What more can be said, folks? Are you ready for the situation? Janet requests immediate loan assistance from Jim to deal with spotty cash shortages. To which Jim replies, well, Janet, if sales are so good, why the hell do you need to borrow more money from us? You are Janet. What do you say to the well-intentioned but misguided junior loan officer? Your last question.
I'm still paying back the initial loan.
Pardon me?
Are they still paying back the initial loan?
Yes, they are. It's on the balance sheet and it's being serviced.
Are they, sorry, just a question. Are they having issues with their buyers not paying them in time? That's the first thing that I thought when you said spotty cash shortages, that the money coming in isn't timing well with the money going out.
I think you're right. I think the money coming in is not well timed with the money going out, but it may not be problematic. It may not be problematic. Let's go further here. Come on, guys.
Is it possible? Is it possible she's trying to expand the business?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're growing. They're probably going to need more equipment, maybe more facility. Hey, Sean, this is great. This is great. My professor is, I'm bringing him out of the grave right now. All right.
It could be that, sorry. Oh, it could be that they're basically, how do I say this? You have a demand that you can't meet right away, and so you get a cash influx.
I hear you. But I don't think that's motivating Janet right now to need loan assistance. Keep going. This is great. I'm glad this was the last challenge here.
Adele, can I?
It could well be that the money is tied up in increased inventory.
What was that again?
The increased inventory to meet the sales.
You are absolutely right. Take a look at this business. It's seasonal. They make chocolate. And they have to have all of the ingredients, the inventory to make it. Sales are on the rapid upswing seasonally as well. And so it's perfectly normal to expect what? You're going to have a cash shortage. You're going to sell, but you need inventory to sell. And you're going to need working capital. You're going to need a credit line. So you go to your bank and you say, bank, I want to borrow from you so I can finance inventory, so I can make this stuff, so that eventually I can sell it, collect the receivable. And when I collect the receivable, I'm able to repay the loan. It's a self-liquidating loan, as we call it. That's the purpose of a credit line.
Del.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God. Can I add something on what you're saying? Is that I was just going to say that word capital because I have a business with my family, and that's technically what is happening to us. That I have it's incredible. That's the reason that I want to go to the MBA, because I need to make the right decisions to make it to the next level. That's oh man, that was so great. That's a great question.
Yeah, you know, it's funny to build on what you just said. There's nothing problematic about this. This is the way a business operates. There's certain types of businesses that need a credit facility, a credit line, to finance the purchase of inventory, so this company can continue to support customer demands. At the end of the day, you collect your receivables, because you're able to sell more product, and you pay off the loan, and what you have left is profit. And quite honestly, the more seasonal your business, the more the need for the credit line. And the term we use in finance, the credit line is self-liquidating. There's not only nothing wrong with this, this is perfectly normal. And I have to tell you something. When I was a kid, way back in time, and this question was put to us, I would not be proud with my response, okay? But this points up something that you learn in finance. There are these working capital loans that are absolutely necessary. And long-term growth is great. You're going to be more profitable. Your sales will be higher. But in operating your business intra-year, you have to worry about working capital. Can you maintain desired levels of liquidity during a period where seasonally you're growing sales? The answer is yes. That's why banks are available to you who offer these kinds of loans and charge you a prime rate plus. So that said, that's the last challenge of the evening, and we're 7:15 right now, Sean. I'm very pleased.
We certainly are. No need, keep going, wrap it up, however you want to handle.
I guess the point of these 4 exercises, like I said in the very beginning, I can tell you what MBA education is about. But what we did briefly for the last half hour, 45 minutes, was engage in strategy on the run. You weren't given time to think. You weren't given time to do research. You were not working in teams. I just reacted to a situation using judgment, had some very relevant things to say. And quite honestly, it's really more about a thought process, like I said earlier. And finally, there is no right or wrong answer. There never is. There's never a right or wrong answer. It depends on your assumptions, how you interpret the information, and how good you are in communicating your observations, findings, and conclusions. That's what MBA education is about. It challenges you to think. You become the good trial lawyer as it relates to strategy. You have limited facts on which to base an understanding and a decision, and you use those facts wisely and smartly. At the end of the day, you're a better decision maker, because that's the purpose of MBA education, to make you a better decision maker. And the last comment I want to make is a repeat comment. There is no right or wrong answer. It's how you read the tea leaves, what assumptions you make, how much of a command do you have over the facts, and how are you able to piece together logically and smartly a point of view that fundamentally makes sense and leads to good decisions. That's what we've done tonight. Every one of these issues here has its pluses and minuses. If this company here, if Janet borrows too much, and this happened with a client of mine, they anticipated a 30% increase in sales over a given period of time. They acquired massive amounts of product from China that were shipped well in advance of the season. Roughly 40% increase was projected. And the way that was financed was through a letter of credit and a credit line. And guess what happened? Sales didn't materialize at 40%. Instead, it was 20%. And they were left with unwanted inventory. And let's go a step further. The right hand of their balance sheet was already debt-ridden. So suddenly they were weighed down with debt, interest payments, and the result of a tactical decision that was made with optimism that wasn't justified, eventually 8 months later put this company into a Chapter 11. That's the extreme case. So there are pluses and minuses here, but it all boils down to risk management, judgment, and good decision making. You've been a good class tonight, even though we weren't a class. This was fun. Sean, I'm giving it back to you now.
Well, thank you, Dale. I give everyone a chance while Dale is still with us, before we kind of go into a mini info session. Do you have any questions, comments? You have the professional here himself, so definitely take advantage of this opportunity if you have any comments, questions, or anything you'd like to say.
Hey, Sean, before we get maybe some comment here, can I give a promotional message? Is that okay?
Absolutely, I appreciate it.
Now, this is a promotional message. Inside the world of MBA land at Lehigh, and I've taught in the MBA program for, I'm embarrassed to say, for 48 years. But MBA education today is vastly different from what it was 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's interactive. It's on the run. It's much more challenging and intellectually stimulating than it ever was. But that said, inside the world of MBA education at Lehigh, there's a program, a curriculum called Venture Series. And it's made up of roughly 15 courses that speak to the startup community. Courses that speak to venture capital, entrepreneurial marketing, intellectual property, IPO. In fact, this Friday, Saturday, I'm teaching a 2-day course on going public, IPO land. So these 14 courses slice and dice entrepreneurship from every angle. And the entire program on the surface is about the venture capital backed company, rapid growth, transformation, and exit. It's fast track, it's heavy duty finance and marketing and operations and intellectual property. But it's more than that, because even if you're not entrepreneurially bent, it's when you look at something that's small and growing rapidly, you gain a greater appreciation, or your understandings for the world of business are much more acute. And I encourage you to consider, if you enroll in the Lehigh MBA program, to consider joining us in what I call affectionately Club Med, Venture Series. They're 1-credit courses. They're interactive. They're driven through Q&A. They're not driven by lecture. They're taught on a Friday and Saturday. And except for me, who is on the Lehigh faculty, all faculty are from my Rolodex. They're from the outside world. They're technologists, practitioners, VCs, investment bankers, and entrepreneurs. They are the instructors in the various courses that are offered. So consider Venture Series as a viable alternative when you're in the MBA program. Consider taking a couple of courses, or maybe concentrate in corporate entrepreneurship. That said, promotional message is over.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth for your part of the Flex MBA program, so I love it. Anyone have questions, comments? Dale, everyone in the chat has been very thankful, very engaging experience to them. So does anyone have any specific questions or anything they'd like to share with Dale
Victoria,
before we let him go?
Victoria, what's your question?
My question?
Yes.
Okay. So it seems to me that there's like 4 different, I sensed a theme. We went from like marketing was the one that, I tended to know the most about, because I was kind of lost in the first question with like the business strategy and business model. Never heard that before. So is there like different, I guess, categories that this MBA is going to explore? So like we're going to learn more marketing, more finance, more business model, like something like that?
Yes. Yeah. Every one of the instructors, except for me, I'm sort of holistic. They're in a discipline. So you'll have experts in finance, marketing, accounting, and they're going to approach decision-making from their perspective. And then there are these courses that you will take where we put it all together and we reassemble the puzzle. So you get to see it as a mosaic like we did tonight. And it's interesting you pointed that out, because one of those was about marketing. The other was about a business model. The other one was about finance, and the other one was about acquisition, M&A. And I'm sensing from the group, Sean, that most people stayed with us, which is a good sign.
As I said, intelligent, motivated.
How about you, Harry?
Yeah, I enjoyed it so much, but I think that one of the things that comes to my mind was particularly with regard to smaller companies buying up the market. If you look at, I'm a pediatrician by training, and if you look at the entire situation with newborn medicine and pregnancy, Medela Corporation realized the importance of breastfeeding and pumps as a major way of trying not only to help new mothers and babies, but essentially they ended up building a better mousetrap, and they ended up buying out all the other pump corporations on the market for the most part. So now the Cadillac or the Mercedes gold standard for infant care with regard to pregnancy is a Medela. Right, and they'd made all these sub differences, all these sub accounts and sub companies, and they started buying out all the competition. So now the only thing that you can really do whenever you speak to physicians or pediatricians or hospitals or nurseries, you know, the immediate question that comes to mind is what type of Medela pump do you want, right? Not even what kind of pump do you want, but what type, right? And that's a major situation with regard to a company that had the foresight and the ability to realize, you know, that the only way to really buy out the competition was to have a better market, a better mousetrap that all of the new mommies would, and then a marketing campaign that essentially put everybody else out of business. So that is something that came to my mind as a practitioner. Right?
Harry, you just described the interest that venture capital and private equity have in healthcare. It is a market that is burgeoning, it's growing, it's exciting, and it frankly is driving the IPO market. I think we're ready.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dale, for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know today was a very busy day for you. Thank you, everyone.